Happy DCA Wednesday, you sexy sat stackers. Are you ready to stack some more sats?
This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only. Nothing on this podcast should be construed as financial advice. All views expressed on this podcast are solely the opinions of the host and/or any guests that we might have from time to time. Nothing on this podcast should be construed as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or to follow a particular investing strategy.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Bitcoin Bulletin Podcast, DCA Wednesday edition. Today is Wednesday, August 25th, 2021, and this will be our fifth stack on this journey we started together just a couple of weeks ago. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, we decided to test out the dollar cost average method of investing by taking $20 and investing it into Bitcoin every Wednesday afternoon and watching that stack grow until we all become stinking rich, until the Bitcoin network ceases to exist, or until you just get bored and stop listening. Disclaimer, as usual, this is not investment advice. That said, however, what exactly is dollar cost averaging? Well, dollar cost averaging is an investment strategy where you invest your money in equal portions at regular intervals regardless of price. As the saying goes, time in the markets beats timing the markets every time it's tried. Why $20, you might ask? Well, $20 isn't a lot of money to a lot of investors. However, in some parts of the world, $20 is quite a lot of money. But for the average person listening to this podcast, $20 is probably what you spend on lunch or maybe a drink after work or some other habit that you can put aside for just one Wednesday. Lengthen out that time preference a little bit, and stack a few sats. But hey, before we jump right into that, let's go over the stats real quick. Bitcoin is currently valued at $48,980. We're at a block height of 697,604. And we have just had a difficulty adjustment. Difficulty went up in the last day by 13.2%. So the rest of those Chinese miners have either completed their migration and come back online, or new hash power is coming on the line, because we're also forecast, depending where you look, we're also forecast to have another upward difficulty adjustment of between 15 and 18% in about 12 days. So we have definitely chewed up that 40% or so hash power drop that we saw when China cracked down on mining, and we've had consistent double-digit difficulty adjustments since. The other thing I'd like to point out is that our 24-hour transaction volume is averaging 3.07 transactions per second, and that is up from 2.89 transactions per second last Wednesday. And that is a good thing, because as you know, the price is a lot easier to manipulate. The volatility can be a lot crazier, often to the downside when there are fewer transactions. Obviously, the less Bitcoin that is trading, the easier it is for a whale to come in and crash the price or manipulate the market in either direction. I'm laughing because my daughter just sent me a couple of memes. Well, actually, the first thing she sent me wasn't a meme. It's a picture of a David Hasselhoff chia pet that's at this bar that she and my son are at this evening. And the second thing is a meme from the movie Interstellar, from the scene where it says, 1 hour here is 7 years on Earth, to which he replies, great, we can hodl here. With that said, a quick recap is in order. Again, this will be our fifth stack. Our first stack was on July 28th, and Bitcoin was $39,716.40. The next stack was August 4th. Bitcoin was down a tiny bit to 38,900. Then we stacked again August 11th, and Bitcoin had shot all the way up to 46,606.43. And then, of course, last Wednesday we stacked at a price of $45,076.20. That brings our stack so far to 184,765 Satoshis at an average cost of $43,478.26, including the fees that we've been paying. We've invested a total of $80, and our stack is currently worth $90.38. So we're off to a pretty good start. All right, as usual, we're going to stack using the Cash App again this week. I know last week I said I was getting ready to test out the Strike app, and I've been playing with the Strike app a little bit, but the level of verification I have on Strike app right now only lets me send like $250 a week, and I've currently exhausted my limit, so I cannot use the Strike app for this stack. So we're going to continue to use the Cash App. Again, it's not the cheapest method for investing in Bitcoin, but they only charge about 2.5%, which is a lot cheaper than other methods. And they do let you transfer your stack to your personal wallet, and as long as you meet their criteria, there's no withdrawal fee. So oftentimes, especially when fees were really high, that withdrawal fee was actually you'd save more by not paying the mining fee than you do spending 45-50 cents in purchasing investment fees. Alrighty then. So today we're going to stack another $20. So I'm putting $20 onto Cash App, and then I'm clicking on the Bitcoin tab, clicking on buy, and again, they will let you automate this. The default is a standard one-time order, but you can set up auto investment or custom purchase orders to auto dollar cost average. As you're painfully aware, I obsess with price, which is part of the reason I'm getting this podcast out later tonight than usual, because I've been watching the price play with 50,000 and then duck back down to 48-ish on and off this afternoon. Their default purchases are 10, 25, 50, 75, or 100. But if you click on the three dots, you can enter your custom amount. We're going to enter 20 as usual. And it's going to ask us to confirm our purchase. We'll be getting 39,972 sats at a price of $48,909.24. There's a 45-cent fee, so we'll be investing $19.55 for a total investment cost of $20. That's what we've been doing all along. Interestingly enough, if I do switch to Strike or some other service that's a little bit cheaper, that's going to alter my stack a little bit by eliminating the fees. So maybe we'll stick with Cash App for the time being regardless. All right, so we've confirmed our purchase. We have an extra 39,972 sats, which brings our stack up to 224,737 sats. And right now that's worth $109.91. And we've invested a total of $80, including those fees. So we're already off to a pretty good start. Of course, obviously, as the price goes up in a bull run, dollar cost averaging is going to make you look like a genius. Whereas if we had started the stack on the downside of a crypto winter, we wouldn't look so hot. But the idea here is, again, time in the markets beats timing the markets. This is a long-term play. So it may go up, it may go down, and we're just going to keep stacking every Wednesday until we see the big picture play out. If you follow Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, he has his 210,000 block theory, which basically says that if you take the price of Bitcoin and you go back 210,000 blocks, which is about 4 years, the price will always be more expensive 4 years later, or it will always be cheaper if you go back 4 years, that you'll never have lost money 4 years later on your investment. And so far, that theory holds true. I know Adam's gone over that in detail on his podcast, the One Bitcoin Show or This Week in Bitcoin, which he hasn't done in about a week. As we discussed previously, he drew a line in the sand and basically said that he wasn't going to do any more shows for free, that he was only going to do a show if he got paid at least $100 to do so. And people have been ponying up the money because he, after a really, really brief break, he had been doing regular shows, but I haven't heard anything out of him on YouTube or on his podcast for a week now. Hopefully people pony up the dough or he changes his mind. But again, Adam Meister is the one that introduced a lot of us to that 210,000 block theory, and that goes hand in hand with the whole dollar cost averaging thesis. Hey, if you find this content useful or entertaining, or if you're just feeling extraordinarily generous, there are a number of ways you can help support me in this podcast. The most obvious one is if you don't already have Cash App, there is a referral code in the show notes. And if you click on that link and set up a new Cash App account and follow their terms and conditions, you'll get $5 just for trying them out, and we'll get $5 as well. I've written several books, but the one you might know that's most relevant to this podcast is Understanding Bitcoin for Noobs, and that's available on both Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Obviously, purchasing either of my books would help support the podcast as well. And you can also support the podcast directly through the Anchor.fm website, and they include a support link automatically in the show notes. And last but not least, we also include a Base32 Bitcoin address in the show notes if you feel like helping us out by contributing Bitcoin. Any of those would be greatly accepted. Any of those would be greatly appreciated. All will be accepted, and it'll help us continue our journey. And as usual, if there are any suggestions, things you would like me to talk about, things you would not like me to talk about, or if you just want to drop a line and say hi, you can contact us by email at bitcoinbulletin@protonmail.com. We do maintain the website bitcoinbulletinpodcast.com that provides additional links and ways that you can follow us or listen to us. And you can follow me on Twitter at BTC Bulletin Pod. That's at BTC Bulletin Pod. And in case you don't have that Cash App referral code and like to enter fancy numbers, you can enter that code manually as PZBNXLF. That's Papa Zebra Bravo November X-Ray Lincoln Lima Foxtrot. Excuse the tiny little faux pas there. Throwback from the days when I had to blend two different phonetic alphabets. And obviously I'm not important enough to merit my own custom referral code, at least not yet. And that is going to do it for this DCA Wednesday edition of the Bitcoin Bulletin Podcast. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Your support is greatly appreciated. And until next time, keep on stacking those sats, you sexy sat stackers.